in terms of today, this is a normal format. It's a Meet the Mayor format. It's a Q&A. So I'll be up here asking a few questions. But really, I want to make sure that your voices are heard. It's a great opportunity for you to ask questions of the North East Mayor, Kim McGuinness. You've got some already, we've had some sent in, but it doesn't matter if you've got a question that you've thought of today or something that prompts through the day, please ask the question. I'd hate for you to leave without asking it and getting the understanding of where things are coming from. Now, because there's so many of you, I'm going to have to manage it by hands in the air. So if you do have a question, please put your hand up and I'll get to as many people as I possibly can. Is that okay? Now, given we've got a lot of people in the room as well, we'll probably need to make sure that we ask our questions in a short format. So I may politely have to reduce the question slightly, and hopefully we can get through as many as we can in the time that we've got allotted. So without further ado, if everybody's happy with those sorts of things, I'd like to welcome the North East Mayor, Kim McGuinness.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. So thank you for coming along and being with us today. Now, before we get into everybody's questions, the first thing that I hear from a lot of people is, what does a mayor actually do?
Right.
And second to that, how does the North East Combined Authority, how does that work with the local authorities and the NHS for all decision making and things like that? Could you bring that to life?
Yeah, completely. So first of all, I just want to add a little bit to what Andrew said about asking you a question. I'm completely happy to answer whatever questions you want. But the other thing I always want to mention is that we're here for ideas as well. So, you know, in answer to your question, this area is huge. It's 3,500 square miles. We've got 2.1 million people that live here. That's 7 local authorities. It's 21 parliamentary constituencies. We've got beaches, cities, coastline, towns. It's massive. And I'm really honest, I can't know everything. And I can't have every idea. And so when we do these things, I'm here to answer your questions, but if you've got ideas on how you want things to be and what you think could be done better, we also want to hear that as well. So I'm quite new. We've only had a mayor, this kind of mayor in the region since 2024. So I was elected in May 2024 as the first North East Mayor. I've given you an idea of the size of it. And the way it works is that we bring together the 7 local authorities from Northumberland, North Tyneside, Newcastle, Gateshead, South Tyneside, Sunderland and County Durham. And we make regional decisions. And what we're not doing is changing the way that any of your council services work. So all of things like your bins and your roads and all those bits and bobs like that are still run by the council. We're taking power from government. So from my point of view, they make too many decisions in London, and that doesn't suit areas like ours. And so having a mayor in the region means that we make more of our own decisions on things like transport, on things like skills, on things like culture, on things like housing, on the way that we attract tourists to the region, on how we promote and talk about the place. And so there's a suite of powers that we have that we're now getting to work on making things better in the North East. And there's some things that government's still responsible for, some things that the local authority will always be responsible for. But the idea is that you should have your decisions made closer to home rather than by a government in Westminster.
Okay. And in terms of that relationship with how the authorities and that working?
Yes. So the leaders of the local authorities form a cabinet for us. And so I sit with them once a month and we make those collective decisions on behalf of the region. And so everybody comes together and says, yes, of course, I might be the leader of Northumberland Council, but actually Northumberland needs to work with North Tyneside, Newcastle, Gateshead, Sunderland, South Tyneside, Durham. And so we make those collective decisions about how we approach things on those things across the region. The NHS, I don't have any responsibility at all for health. Right. However, we work together with the NHS to make sure that if we can, do things that have a positive impact on people's health more broadly, that we'll invest together. So one of those things, for example, is we've got a big Trailblazer programme about helping people who are out of work because perhaps they've got a health problem or a mental health problem. We work together with the NHS and then local charities and organisations to support people to overcome those things and get back to work. So whilst we might not be responsible for the hospitals or the GP surgeries, there's lots of things that we can do alongside people like the NHS, because again, like I say, we can't know everything, I can't know everything, we also can't do it all by ourselves.
Okay, brilliant. And I noticed we have North East Warm Homes with us today as well.
Yes.
Where's the team? There they are at the back. If anybody wants to know a little bit more, they'll be around in a little bit. Why don't you bring this to life for us? Because this is a big topic across the region.
It's a massive topic. You know, I know that the thing that is the biggest concern for people across the region is the cost of living, and particularly the cost of heating your home and your energy bills. You know, we all feel it, and we know that older people quite often feel it more. We need the home to be warmer. And we know that there's a lot of savings that can be made by making little adjustments and little tweaks. And so we've now got the Warm Home Service with these amazing people at the back here. And they'll give professional advice on things that you can do to reduce your energy bills without it being colder. You know, without having to sacrifice that really important heat that you need. And some of that might be kind of big changes to your house, but actually some of it is small everyday things that you can do without noticing the difference. But they're saving people thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds, which is just really brilliant for the region. We know that, you know, we'd started, energy bills got so out of control, and then they started to come down, but now we do have this war taking place in Iran, and we know that that's probably going to drive them up again, which is really scary for a lot of people. And so that service is going to be really invaluable to help people keep control of that.
Yeah. I'm going to throw this out now to everybody else, some questions, but there are some rules. I'll just remind you, when we do come out, we need to get through a lot of questions, so if we can keep them quite short. There's a lot of people in the room. We are being recorded, so if we can be respectful for everybody as we raise our questions. There are two people who are going to do loads of running for us today. We've got Anna, and we've got Fraser over there. Now, they're not walking around with cleaners, they are actually microphones. So please wait, if you want to put your hand up, if you want to raise a question now, they'll come over to you with the microphone just so that we can hear the question as we go through there. What I'd like you to do is just introduce yourself first, say your name, and then give us your question. Is that okay? Who'd like to go first? Yes.
Hi, I'm Susan Gibson. I actually help and volunteer up at Information Advice. Going on from the Warm Homes, my question...
I'm a little bit deaf and I can't hear you.
I'll repeat it.
Yeah,
so
we'll
if
repeat.
you carry on, I'll repeat your question before I answer it.
Yeah.
Right. And we would like to know what measures are being taken to help older residents to cope with high energy costs.
Yeah, I think this is so this is about what measures are being taken to help older people with high energy costs. And so the Warm Homes team is the primary thing that we can do to get in there and support people. And you're volunteering at that service, so thank you so much for doing that. And it's about, I think, spreading the message that team are there for people. I'm about to speak on your behalf, but if you want to jump in, please do. But you obviously will go to people's homes, you'll talk to them about where they are at the moment, how their energy bills are working, you'll give them advice on everything from, you know, switching energy providers to the measures that they can take in their own home. And so we've invested heavily in that service because we know how important it is. And now, you know, there is a capacity to see more people and to support more people with that. And at the same time, you know, I won't be shy on saying to government, you need to do more. One of the things that we intervened with earlier this year was, particularly in Northumberland and in actually County Durham, there's a lot of people who are on like oil, and that was not in the price cap, and it was getting completely out of control. And so, you know, we intervened with government and said, look, 30% of our residents in County Durham, 40% of our residents in Northumberland are affected by this. You need to do something, and government did step in. And so we'll also keep banging the drum to say we need that national support, we need to do whatever we can to drive energy bills down, but at the same time we'll provide the local support to help people to manage their own energy bills and make the small changes that will make a massive difference.
Thank you very much for your question. Anybody else? Yes.
Thank you. Shirley Hallam Gould, representing a residency in Whitley Bay, but also a Sir Optimist International local national company.
Okay.
And thank you very much indeed for being here today. It's a lovely opportunity, thank you, to get a question in for my group called Sir Optimist International. We are very concerned about the London format carriages. We thank you for all the work you are already doing, but can you tell us why, in fact, it's more of a London-based setup with the carriages than, in fact, we are mainly overground?
What do you mean on the metro?
Yes, sorry, I wasn't very clear, was it?
No, you're
That's all
fine.
right.
They're very concerned about there's no hanging straps, and also the doors close quickly, getting from one area to another. If there is a problem on the metro, you can't escape and get out of one carriage and go to another. And also it's the proximity of everyone to each other.
Okay.
And the seats are too hard. Can you explain why?
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
So this is about the metro. So it's not obviously relevant to Ashington, although I'm very glad that we've now got the Northumberland line coming to Ashington as well, and that now connects to the metro at Northumberland Park. But the new metro carriages, believe it or not, Shirley, they were designed in collaboration with groups like Age UK, actually, with disability groups, with women's groups, with groups that were all about how to make the metro safer. And so they've got over 40, for example, CCTV cameras that are live feed. We did not have that on the old metros. The general feedback, particularly from women, is it feels safer for everybody to be facing one way rather than people to be facing each other, because there's an intimidation factor quite often with people facing each other, and that is felt by quite a lot of people. And the wider open spaces feel more open and feel generally safer, brighter, lighter, and make it easier, for example, for the security to be able to monitor the carriages, as well as for the driver to have clear lines of sight. I think feedback on the doors opening and closing too quickly, I've not heard that. And so I'm going to take that back and have that conversation, because actually when you think about older people wanting to get on the metro, or people with disabilities or prams, that's really relevant. So I'll take that one back. And then a lot of the other things are about longevity. So making sure that the carriages are robust and last a long time. The hanging straps, we've raised it with Nexus. And they are looking into what's possible, because people have noticed it. But also, it's important to say that there haven't been any incidents or problems. And so there's sort of, and so we're getting feedback on it, but they're monitoring the situation and looking to see what could be done. So those are things that are definitely on people's radar. But the format was designed with people to be more safe and more open. And so it wasn't anything about wanting it to be London style. We definitely don't want that. It's absolutely, they're bespoke, designed for the North East, and with a lot of learning from other places. But it is sometimes about the ways in which people think and feel and experience that feeling of safety. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question and the first idea, the first suggestion. Yes, thank you very much. As we go through, yes, sir. Yeah. I'll come to you next.
It's not the original question.
Just bear with me a second. Oh, you're going rogue. Ooh.
You could probably do both if you want.
It's Malcolm Wilkinson. It's not the original question that I was going to ask. Excuse me. Concerning local transport.
Yep.
The Northumberland line's been a huge success.
It has.
The only thing is for people actually getting to the train station.
Okay.
There is a bus which takes you from the bus station to the top of the station bridge, but it's still quite a walk from there to the railway station, Can there not be like some sort of town service or other bus go around that way to take older people that would love to use the train, but it's too far out the way, and when they get to the top of the bank it's still a long walk, And also concerning the metro, what that lady was on about, the seats are as hard as hell, and I don't think it was thought out properly when they actually did them, because it's not very good for people with hidden disabilities like vertigo or tinnitus. If you have like vertigo, you need to be sitting forward. I walk with a walker, and what I have to do, if there's any seats available, I have to put the seat sideways, and then I have to sit sideways. You know, otherwise you're away. You know, so I think they haven't thought it out properly, and for like people with hidden disabilities.
Okay, thank you. So your question, so the first, for anyone who couldn't hear, the first question was about accessibility of the bus and the interchange with the Northumberland line Ashington station.
Sorry?
Is it, you talked about Ashington station?
Yes, Ashington, yes.
Yeah, and then the second question is again just to follow on the metro. So I can take that suggestion away about the bus going down towards, you know, closer to the platform, to the bus company. So obviously those bus companies run those lines at the moment. I think it's a fair suggestion. Let's ask them. Let's just ask them.
See,
you know,
the bus comes down what you call the Ewell Bank, just to take you down to the original Co-op dairy. But that's the other side of the station.
Yeah, and so you've got quite a walk. So let's ask them the question. I think it's a very fair question because, you know, changing their routes to adapt to the fact that there now is the Northumberland line is really important. So I'll take that away. I don't know why they're doing that, but let's find out. And then on the metro, I think I will give the feedback about the comfort level of the seats. I think when you're designing any massive transport programme like that, it is trying to get it right for as many people as possible and knowing that it can't be perfect for everyone all the time. And so I totally take away the feedback and we'll give them it, particularly about the, you know, the comfort level of the seats, because it's fair enough, you know, you should be comfortable on public transport, but you know, they are a huge improvement on the ones that broke down every 10 minutes, that were noisy, smelly, you know, those trains were older than me.
Actually, the older ones was better than the new ones, I think, to be honest.
Okay.
They were more comfortable.
Well, I think most feedback is that the new ones are better and people are pleased about them. But I think, you know, there's always improvements that can be made. And so we'll take it away and we'll keep having the conversation with Nexus, because nothing should ever be a job done. You know, we should be thinking about how to improve things all the time.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And I'll ask the question of the bus company. And if you make sure that one of our team gets your details, we'll write to you and let you know what they said.
Okay, thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. We've got the gentleman at the back and then I'll come to this gentleman here.
If predictions are right for next week's
Sorry, could you just introduce your name as well?
Sorry, Ross Lambert.
Hi, Ross.
If predictions are correct for next week, and there may only be one Labour-run council, how will that affect your job?
It's a really good question. So this is about the local elections that are taking place next week. So we're obviously seeing 5 of our local authorities have council elections, and 4 of those everybody is out and a whole new council is voted back in, and we are expecting change. I think, you know, I'm never not realistic. I'm not going to stand here and say I think Labour are going to have a good election. I don't think they are. But the fact of the matter is that for me, I've got a job to do. You know, I was elected in 2024 to improve the transport system, to make the region even better, to create some jobs, to give young people opportunity, tackle child poverty, you know, support people right across the region, and I'm absolutely going to do it. And I won't be held back by anybody. But what I would hope is that anybody from any political party putting themselves forward for election wants the best for the region and is willing to sit round and work together to get it. And so that's my starting point. Whoever comes in, you know, the challenge will be, let's work together to improve things for the region. And beyond that, you know, by hook or by crook, we will deliver those changes that people voted for. Because it's so important. The North East is the furthest English place away from London. And for too long, we've just been ignored, we've been left behind. And I just won't have it. You know, we've had record levels of investment in transport. We've got the Northumberland line. We would like to expand it. We're growing the number of carriages. We are improving the metro, albeit I hear you on some changes. We're going to expand that. We're bringing the buses back under public control. We're creating jobs offshore. You know, so we are moving at pace to do things, and I just won't be slowed down. So it's a risk. I am concerned about it, but at the same time, I just hope that anybody who, you know, wants to serve the public will do that rather than play games.
Yeah. Thank you, Kim. This gentleman first, and then I'll come to you.
Hello, my name's Jim Allen Kim, and I'm from Killingworth, Age Concern. I've got a few questions, but I'll just ask you, do you have any plans to rethink how support is provided in our communities, and especially in housing for the elderly? Because, just an example, sheltered housing used to have an on-site warden. They've evaporated and disappeared somewhere in Mines and Preston. I just wondered if there was any rationale to improve that.
Yes, so this is a question about housing, particularly sheltered housing and housing that's appropriate for older people. So we're investing really, really heavily in new homes. And I don't mean new big flashy houses that are kind of dominating the landscape. I mean housing that really matters to people, social housing, housing that is accessible. So only the other day I was in Ashington on the one of the old middle school sites there, and we're building 57 homes. The majority of those are going to be accessible bungalows, which are designed for older people, and they're all homes for social rent. So we know what the need is. We know that we need more supported accommodation. We know we need more adaptable accommodation. We know we need more social housing, more bungalows, more flats, more smaller housing for older people, as well as those family homes. And so we're really investing in that. So we've managed to get from government £1.1 billion to focus on social housing. And so I'm going to get on with that as quickly as possible. That's new for us, and it's a really big change to the way things are done. And so knowing what we need, including that supported housing and those bungalows, is crucial. And I just want you to know that we do know that, and it's factored into the plans.
Okay. We'll just come to this gentleman first, and then we've got this lady here.
My name's John.
Hi, John.
I live in North Seaton. I wasn't going to fetch it up, but when you mentioned the elections, I've been here coming up the 6th year. I do not know who one councillor is, how many there is, what a councillor's getting paid for, and you don't know who they are. That's my question. When it's coming up to elections, oh yes, vote for me, we do this, but you never see them. So if we're one now comes to my door, we chase them, because I don't know.
Well, thank you very much. And I can't speak for your local councillors. You know, you're in North Seaton. You don't have elections. I don't think that's in Northumberland. You don't have elections this next week, and so you don't have that decision to make. Northumberland Council was elected last year, and they'll be in place for 4 years. That Conservative-run council is in place for 4 years as of last year. So, but I will make sure that the council leader knows that we came today and that somebody brought up the fact that they don't know who their councillors are, because it isn't ideal, is it? And actually, you know, I'm lucky because this is my full-time job. So I'm your mayor full-time. And so I come round and I do things. I was with carers last week, young people the week before. You know, so we get the opportunity to come out and speak to people, have these conversations, make sure that they know who we are and what we do for you. And so more of that, I think, is better. But I think it's really important to feed that back to the council. And the whole point is, you know, you're there to support your community, to help people with the problems that they've got at home, to support them with the things that they need from the council, or, you know, the things that they're really struggling to navigate. And you should be able to contact them at any time to get that help. Thank you.
Yeah. Our second suggestion, excellent. So we're doing well. It's this lady, and then we'll come to you.
You don't need to
stand. It's fine.
Right, thank you. Judith Brady, I'm Northumberland. And I'm sorry it's about the Metro again.
That's fine.
There's been some very valid points raised. I personally am a fan of the old ones, but we have what we have. With regard to safety and security, you passed a comment that there hadn't been any reported incidents or accidents, I think. Now, is that because people are so aware of the lack of things to hold on to? And I'm not just talking about those, because not every older person could actually probably, or smaller people could reach up to that. On the old ones, you had a handle on the back of the seats, you had a post all the way along, so you can actually walk along there. Now, so what? And again, the question about the doors being quick, I'm not aware of that. But if you're not getting up until it stops because there's nothing really to hold on to, then maybe the door's a bit quick. I don't know about that. But personally, you know, you sort of wait, and it's wobbly, and all the hidden disabilities. There's nothing to hold on to until you get to there's one in the middle between the two doors, and there's one by the door. So they're all by the door, but you've got to get through that wide gap. So I'm sorry.
No, you don't.
So perhaps people are being so careful. There's been no accidents.
Yeah.
But it's not easy.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
It's really good feedback, and we'll absolutely take it back to Nexus, because you know these are new, and they've only been in for just a year, and so you know we'll take that feedback back. Thank you.
Okay. This lady here, and then we'll come over here.
Different topic. Is that on?
Yeah,
it's not. It's just for the camera.
Okay. So, this is a different topic. Residents.
Your name, please. First.
Sorry, Vanessa Mansfield from North Tyneside. Residents responded to the Age UK survey. They've been very clear that improved access to public toilets.
Yes.
Would improve their quality of life a great deal.
Yeah.
This issue affects the lives of everyone, not just the ageing population, but the tourists who come, and a lot of people have spoken to me about this. There needs to be real improvement in the provision.
Yeah.
Now, would the Mayor be able to take some strategic action on this issue?
So this is about access to public toilets, and you know, in various different settings. So the answer is twofold. So it depends where. You know, which is obviously not that helpful, but when it comes to things like, you know, the ones you find in car parks or at tourist destinations and that kind of thing across Northumberland, those are absolutely council provision, and we work together, and we are more than happy to provide feedback. So from this, we will write a list and we'll say to the council, these are the things that were brought up that are in your control. But things like interchanges and, you know, the bus stations and things like that, yeah, and it's something we're very aware of, and it's about balancing the need for those facilities with some of the ongoing issues with things like antisocial behaviour and the perceptions of safety as well. So yes, it's something absolutely on our radar for the things that are under our control. So things like the bus stops, and then we don't have at the moment control over train stations. So they're run by Network Rail, and some of them are run by the train companies, but we think we should run them, because we think then we would be able to make them little hubs and retail hubs, and you know, better facilities for people, and think about those sorts of issues. So that's one of the conversations I'm having with government about how we get control of those train stations, so we can start to make that difference. So yes, for some things, not for others, but we know it's an issue, and I'll take your question back to the council as well. Thank you.
Can I just probe just a little bit deeper there if I can? So there's been a couple of, and we're going to come to this gentleman in a second. There's been a couple of conversations about overlap.
Yeah.
You know, some things are in your control, some things are not in your control. And yes, the dialogue and everything else that's happening is, but how do we actually get to a point where there is a resolution, that it doesn't just sit on this never-ending merry-go-round of passing it around?
I do have a very wonderful team of people, including some caseworkers and delivery officers, and when we get one of those queries that is for somebody else, we still drive it through.
Right.
So we don't just say, oh, go and speak to the council. You know, our team will take it and they'll say, we've had this raised, and then they'll follow it through and make sure it gets a resolution. Now, we can't always control what that resolution is, but we'll make sure that it's heard properly. And that was really important to me as Mayor, because I think often when you do have positions like this where there's a big geographical area, it would be really easy to just have people write back and say, I'm sorry, this is not what we do, just go to the council. But it's not the way I want us to do things. I think for me, the whole thing about, you know, representing people at this level is that we should be big enough that we can think strategically about the big issues, but small enough that we can know people. and know what their concerns are and help them with it.
Okay.
I think, can I make a plug for something? Because we've
Please
talked
do.
quite a lot about transport already, and this is always the way, we always talk loads about transport, but one of our big commitments is to get control of our buses. I just don't think the bus service is good enough, and it needs improvement, particularly in Northumberland. We need them to be more frequent. We've capped the fares, which is great for younger people. I'm assuming most people here will have their bus pass. And we've particularly capped the fares for really young people to make it cheaper to get around. But in the summer, we're going to be having a really, really big conversation, a consultation about buses.
Okay.
Because when we make that change and bring them under public control, it needs to be run in the way that people want to see it run. And so the views of older people would be so important in that. So through Age UK, we'll make sure that you get information on when that's coming out and how you can take part, because honestly, I want this to be the biggest conversation that we've ever had about buses in the region, because we get a really golden opportunity to make a change and to improve things and to control them ourselves rather than the big bus companies doing it. And so having your input on that, particularly given that you do have very strong views on the way public transport's run, please take part. Thank you.
Thank you for that, yeah. Sorry, this gentleman, then we'll come to you.
George Allen,
Hi,
Wallsend, born and bred. It's to do with the removal of the 1930 restriction on bus passes and metro passes.
Yeah.
Were you aware there's a collective name for a group of pensioners standing at a bus stop at 9:25 in the morning?
No, what is it?
Twirlies.
Yeah. Twirlies.
Twirlies. Do you know how that's derived?
Too early.
Too early.
When the bus comes after 25 past, you have to ask the driver, am I too early? And that's where it comes from. And Mr. Burnham has managed to do it in Manchester.
Yeah.
Have you any idea if you would be doing that as well?
So we will do it, but we're going to have to be a bit patient for a little while. So where we are at the moment is we're in the process now of bringing the buses under public control. So Andy has been mayor in Manchester for 10 years now, and I've been mayor for 2 years. And the process of doing that takes a long, the legal process takes a long time. It took him 8 years to do it. We're going to do it much quicker than that, but it's still going to take us some time. And the thing that allows him the money to do it is the fact that controlling the buses like that means that he's got control over the fare box and he can see the whole price. The only way that I could do that now is to pay the bus companies millions of pounds to do it. And it's not right, but it's just a fact. And so when we've prioritised how we spend the money that we've received for buses, we've prioritised maintaining some of the cut services so that we can not lose those buses, and we've prioritised capping the fares at £2.50 for longer journeys, so that, for all journeys, so that everybody can afford to get to work, capping them at £1 for young people so that they can afford to get to college and opportunity. And so that is something that at the moment we can't afford. But when we get control of the buses, it is absolutely a priority.
I went to a meeting about 2 years ago. It was a firm of consultants on behalf of Nexus asking questions around the table like this. It was how we use the bus pass, what we use it for, and what would happen if you took it away. And it was, I think it was about 12 in our group, about 6 ladies, and they said they probably wouldn't go out.
Yeah. No, the bus pass. So that was just saying that the bus pass is basically completely invaluable. I totally agree, and I don't think that the 9:30 measure's fair. And it is that thing where if we had the money to do it, we'd do it in a heartbeat. But as I say, anything like that. So anytime we want to reduce a fare, anytime we want to introduce some sort of concessionary fare, so like the young people's fares, anytime we want to change a time frame like that or a time limit, our only option at the minute is just to pay them millions of pounds. And so what you're seeing in Manchester, which is where we're going, is a publicly controlled bus service where they don't have those considerations. It's built into the contracts. It will just be free on your bus pass all the time. That's where I want to get to, but I've got to get control of those buses first, unless I can get government to give me loads more money. And I will keep telling them to do that. But they have invested heavily, and we are spending that money now. But we have had to prioritise, and it's just the reality at the moment. We can't quite afford it just yet.
It's a shame because, like, on Monday, if I want a doctor's appointment on Monday, I've got to walk from my estate down to Walls there.
Yeah.
I could get the bus, would it cost me £2 to do it? And it's just little things like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's just niggles.
I'm in total agreement with you.
Okay.
And honestly, I'd do it yesterday if I could.
Thank you for your question. We've got this lady here. There's one at the back, and then we're going to go there as well. So.
Hazel Fling from Blythe. I'd like to know what if there's anything you can do about the number of times the buses are cancelled. Because if you've got an appointment somewhere, you've got to build in a lot of extra time to get somewhere in case the bus you want doesn't turn up. Today, it took us an hour to get from Blythe to here. Because one, the buses ran late, which some of it's roadworks, but then the buses before were cancelled and things like that. So if you've got a hospital appointment, you have to allow an awful lot of time to get there. And from Blythe, there's one bus to Ashington, one bus to Morpeth, but lots of buses to Newcastle. So it's very limited on how you can get to a hospital appointment if you need to get one, unless it's on the Newcastle route.
And that's an Arriva service, isn't it? Yeah. So that's about cancelled buses. So what can we do to do something about the cancelled buses? The honest truth is, at the minute, until we get proper control of those buses, I can basically just shout at the bus company. But I did that this morning, if it helps. So we had a meeting this morning with Arriva about exactly this, and they held their hands up and said the reliability is not good enough, we are going to improve it. The fleet is not good enough, we're going to improve it. We can help them by investing in things like better quality buses and that kind of thing. And so we've invested £50 million, I think it is, in electric buses that are much more reliable, so much better. They're so much nicer. Yeah, but they're going on the Blythe routes, and that's the next step. And so I've had that conversation with them this morning. We meet the bus companies monthly, and we go through their performance data, including their reliability, their cancellations, their punctuality, and all of that kind of thing, as well as things like the numbers of customers, because when we introduced a £2.50 fare, of course the customer numbers go up, which means more profit for all of us, and therefore they should be reinvesting that. So at the moment, what I can do is hold them to account, make sure that every single complaint that we get goes to them and they have to deal with it, and put pressure on them to resolve those problems. But this is why we're trying to get control of our buses, because it isn't good enough. And actually, I do think that if buses were run for a public service rather than just for profit, we would think about it differently, and we would be thinking about it in a way that actually this is about you getting to your hospital appointment and not waiting in the, okay, today the sunshine, but usually the cold for too long. And so I've had that conversation with Arriva this morning. They know they're the worst culprits, and we'll keep doing it until we get control, and in which case, I want to see a much improved service.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to come to the back. There's two questions. Can I just remind everybody, when the microphones come across, they're not microphones for the room, they're actually for the video recording. So if you can move it closer to your mouth, and if you can speak up a little, just so that others in the room, we will repeat the questions out.
I've got an answer to that as well.
So that you get to hear the question. But if you can raise your voice a little bit, just so other people can hear, that'd be great.
Can I just answer? I've just had a quiet question, but I think it's one worth answering, and it's relevant to that one. So you obviously were aware that Arriva were about 20 drivers short. So their update this morning is they're not anymore in Northumberland. They have managed to recruit the drivers now, and they're training them, and that'll be improved. They're still short in County Durham, so they'll keep doing it there as well. But again, these are the things that we have to keep putting pressure on them for, because it's not an excuse, it's a bus service, and they shouldn't get into that situation in the first place. So yeah, we had that update this morning.
Okay, I'm conscious that people will want to carry on talk. Sorry.
It's either buses are a shortage or the drivers are a shortage. It's always one or the other, and you can't argue that.
I'm conscious I want to get around as many questions as I can. Just to help everybody, Kim is going to be around a little bit after the session when we finish around about 1:30. So any other deeper dives on these topics, please feel free to have a conversation with Kim as well. But I'm conscious I want to try and get as many voices in the room as I can. So we've got the lady, two ladies at the back, and I'm going to go to that gentleman, then to you.
Hello,
And
my
then I'll
name
come to you.
is Rosemary Muffet. I'm from Deaf Awareness North East. Thank you for the invitation.
Rosemary, I can't quite, I can't quite hear you. If you just speak up just a touch, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Start again. I'm from Deaf Awareness North East.
Yeah.
And thank you for the invitation. My question really relates to accessibility across the board of some of the scenarios we've talked about. Mm-hmm. And it's how do you or how could you try to ensure access to information for people with hearing loss comparative to people with hearing? And is that something on your agenda, or could it be something on your agenda?
Yeah, so accessibility in general is something, so I'll come back to the front. The accessibility in general is something that we are highly conscious of, and again, particularly on the transport network. So, you know, trying to work with organisations like Age UK, like Deaf Awareness North East, to keep making the continual improvements, and also to design the services so that from the beginning they're just better than they used to be before. And so the way we do that is by being proactive. So, you know, Anna's here today with a roving mic, but is part of a really big transport team who have all been, drilled in making sure that when we're making those transport improvements, working with the bus companies, with the metro and with the train companies, that we're building in those support systems. We have real problems with accessibility, for example, in some of our train stations right across, particularly West Northumberland, but right across Northumberland. Again, we don't control those at the moment, but saying to government, we need to spend money on this because it's stopping people from using the public transport network, and that's not okay. You shouldn't be stopped because you can't. We should be enabling people. So we are aware of it, and where we can, making those changes. But we're always really willing and keen to hear from organisations like Deaf Awareness about things that you've spotted. Because again, you know, with the best will in the world, they can't know everything, but things that you've spotted that just need changes, and we're all ears because we want to get it right.
And if you work with health authorities, health environments are very tricky for people with hearing loss. So again, would you be able to have, maybe not influence, but work with them to ensure better access to information?
It's the sort of thing where we can give that feedback. So about health settings, so for example, GPs practices, hospitals not being very good environments for people with hearing loss. You know, that's the sort of thing where if you're contacting us and saying this is a real problem across the North East, we will absolutely go to them and say this is what we're hearing from the experts, and try to drive that change. We don't oversee them, we can't make them do things, but we can say this is the voice of the people that are talking to us, this is what they're saying to us, these are the changes that need to be made. Thank you.
Thank you. So we just go to this lady, and then we'll go across to this gentleman here, and then to this lady here.
Hiya, Kim.
Hiya.
I'm Sonia. I'm from Age UK in North Tyneside.
Lovely to see you.
Thank you for the opportunity. You talked a little bit at the start about devolved decision making.
Yes.
And you've talked an awful lot about co-production. Mm-hmm. We work with an older person's involvement network in North Tyneside. That directly feeds into an age-friendly action plan in North Tyneside. And I just wondered if you could confirm for us the kind of mechanisms that you have in place now to engage and amplify that older person's voice. Today is fantastic, but what can we see in the future?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So this is about how we formally include older people's voices in all of our work across the organisation. And so I didn't know that action plan existed in North Tyneside, but that's something that I think we could look at for something for the region and learn from the way North Tyneside have done it. What we have at the moment is a series of advisory boards and groups, and so for those advisory boards, whether it's transport or culture or housing or whatever else it is, we will go out to the sector, to experts as well as stakeholders, and say, come and help us co-design this properly. And that is on a more kind of directorate by directorate basis. But I think looking at it across the piece is something that we could pick up with you after, because it makes great sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentleman there. Yep.
Hello, and my name is Ian Knowles. I'm from Ashington and District U3A,
and Opal, both organisations for retired.
Where are you from? Sorry.
Sorry, Ashington in District U3A.
Yeah.
And Opal, which are both organisations for retired and semi-retired. I had 3 questions, and you've covered 2 of them. So
that's good.
So that's very good.
Did I mention that I'm a mind reader?
Absolutely. Yeah. One of them, which is quite common amongst a lot of the people of my age group, which is a very advanced age group, is certain limits that are exposed by what I would call digital exclusion, whereby for things like doctor's appointments, placing prescriptions, trying to talk to a person at a bank rather than some AI bot. I personally find that quite awkward and frustrating, as do many of the people I know. In fact, with things like doctor's appointments and say arrangement for injections and what have you, I actually go into the GP's practice and do what my dad would have called the daft man's act and ask them if it's possible to make an appointment there, because I've experienced quite a lot of problems, probably due to my IT limitations. But there are many people, elderly people, are not confident with using IT to do these things, and I think sometimes the wait that you have if you make a phone call puts people off. I've heard of people waiting an hour to get through or something like that. So so that was one thing. And I won't really ask this question, but just a subject to raise, excuse me, very quickly, is what I perceive to be the relative lack of police availability in the area.
In Ashington?
In Ashington, yes. Okay. We do see very occasionally, but it's usually the, I forgot what they're called.
PCSOs?
It's usually them who I'm sure do a fine job, I'm not doubting that. But there has been, as far as I'm aware, some crimes that have been committed, and there's a lot of people now, I'm not trying to disparage them, but on these electric bikes, and they do something and they can get away, they can go down alleyways or something like that, and they know that they're not likely to be pursued by police, because it's not like the old Bobby on the beat scenario. And I appreciate it'll be manning and it will be cost, etc. But I think some people do feel perhaps on occasion slightly intimidated by this.
I feel intimidated by it. You said you don't disparage them. I hate those things. I think they are dangerous, and I think they're really scary.
Well, I was a bit rude actually.
That's all right. I agree with you. So, your first question about digital exclusion, digital inclusion, I think is more important. So I think 2 things. I just completely agree with you that there should be options for people who either don't want to or can't use digital services, and I think whilst we don't control those services, I think, again, making sure that we're advocating on behalf of people, older people, and supporting people to get access to the things that they need is important. So I'm a big advocate of, for example, there being more of those public services in local areas, like on our high streets, and we're doing some work on our high streets, and the hope is to try and do and encourage more of that kind of thing. With some of the money that we have for skills training, we've put inclusion courses on, and we'll work with people who want to increase their digital inclusion. I know Age UK and some of the other organisations present do a wonderful job with that kind of thing as well. But there's nothing quite like, being able to walk into the bank or walk into the GP or to just make a fairly quick phone call. And so I think people are becoming more aware of this as an issue, and we have to keep pushing it. And I haven't got a simple answer for you, because going back to a time when budgets were much greater and all of public services were better funded, it isn't an option for us at the moment. And so it's trying to support people to access things in the way that they can, how they can. Your point on policing, We hear it all the time, and I totally get it. I was Police and Crime Commissioner before I did this job, and we recruited well over 700 police officers to try and replace the 1,100 that were cut by the previous government, and that'll filter through as these people become trained and become fully qualified officers. But you're right, you know, there just isn't quite enough, and the demand is high, and situations like that with off-road bikes and those electric scooters, which I think are just awful, they are really dangerous, you know, they are very, very difficult for the police to pursue. And so I think two things: don't stop reporting it, you know, make sure you do report it. If it's dangerous, ring 999. If it's less urgent, ring 101 and report it, because the more information they have on it, the more, and the hotspots, the more they can police around it. And that was one of the messages all the time when I was Police and Crime Commissioner is, you know, people deal with these problems all the time, but they don't report it. And actually, they need to know what the accurate picture is. And the second thing is, you know, don't be frightened to give your feedback to your local policing teams, because, again, that kind of hotspot information about, for example, in Ashington at this time, there's always off-road bikes. It makes a really, really big difference to them. So our feedback, I'll go talk to the Police and Crime Commissioner, let her know that it's been raised. She will definitely know of it as an issue and be fighting it all the time. But the big thing is, do report these things. You can do it anonymously, you don't have to tell me your name, you can, you know, you're completely safe in doing it, but they've got to know where the issue is to tackle it. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. This lady, yep. Then we're going to come here, and then we're going to go to that gentleman there.
I'll come round this way.
Oh, okay.
Anne Cater, Whitley Bay. It's not so much a question.
Thank you.
More an opportunity to raise awareness. I'm here to represent a macular degeneration group that meets regularly in Whitley Bay. For those who may not know, if you suffer with the condition of macular degeneration, you have no forward vision. You have to develop the ability to use your peripheral vision. And what I suppose I would like to do this afternoon is that if there is an opportunity to raise awareness with as many councils, sorry, I must stop waggling this about, to raise with as many councils as possible how they might make the general environment safer for people with McD to move about. And we're not talking necessarily lots of money. Things like hedges that are allowed to grow halfway across a pavement, low-hanging branches on trees, cars that park on pavements, and I know that's hidebound with all kinds of problems. Audible announcements on buses, because it's no good having a message put up. If something happens that the bus stops short of the stop, someone with McD may not realise that, get off the bus, and then they haven't got a clue where they are. So the other thing was, it seems to have disappeared, the audio signals at traffic lights. There are these newfangled devices now that have come about. But somebody with McD, when they could hear that the light had changed, they knew then it was safe to cross. And this doesn't seem to be the case with all lights. Now, I think that was all I wanted to raise. But mainly just to raise the condition with councils, because so many have no idea about it at all. And we're not talking the odd person who may suffer from this. We're talking literally, within this northeastern area, thousands of people. And it doesn't have a high profile. I've no doubt everyone has heard of Judi Dench and knows that she suffers from macular degeneration. But for the most part, it isn't something that many people know about. And I was at a convention at Whitley Bay Library a couple of weeks ago, and I was amazed, as Larry Grayson used to say, how many people knew absolutely nothing about macular degeneration. But at least today, hopefully, everyone who's sitting in this room,
it's like your magic wand,
has heard it. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. And what we'll do is we'll get some details, and the team will circulate your support groups details around the room. So if anybody needs to attend that or wants to tell somebody about it, they can. What strikes me about the things that you've just said is that all of those things would actually just be better for everybody. And this is quite often the way, you know, when we're thinking about, well, why don't we adapt that so that it's safer for women, or why don't we adapt that so it's better for wheelchair users or pushchair users, or why don't we adapt that so it's good for people who have hearing loss or sight loss. The truth is that all of the things you mentioned will just be better for everybody, and that's quite often the way. And so I think it's really important to raise awareness of it. Those are all things that we're thinking about when we're thinking about that safety and that accessibility work that we're doing. Again, some of it is council, some of it is other authorities, some of it's us. But it's a reminder to have a focus. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that. I am conscious of time. There are two questions I'm going to go to, this lady first and then that gentleman there who's been patiently waiting. And then I'm going to have to draw this to a close. So.
Thank you. Jeanette Robinson, Sir Optimist International, Tynemouth, Whitley Bay and District. Abuse towards other members of society in the news this week because of the Jewish people, but also women, children, elderly. This, together with a general lack of respect, seems to be much more common these days. What developments would the Mayor like to see, or indeed introduce, to make everyone feel free from potential abuse while using or waiting for public transport?
Thank you. I think that, so this is about, you know, essentially a rise in abuse and hate and division that we're seeing, and, you know, a feeling that people are more willing to say more hurtful things to each other. This is something that I feel very keenly. You know, it won't surprise anyone here to know that I experience quite a lot of abuse online. Just for trying to do a job and improve things for people, and that's really, really hard. And what worries me is when younger people in particular might be thinking about jobs that put them in that front line and might think about jobs that expose them to that, they might decide to do something else. And I just think that would be such a terrible shame. I also see in, as you've suggested, you know, communities like our big Jewish community in Gateshead, like our ethnic minority communities across the region, a real fear of increased exposure to racism and to discrimination, and we just don't need it. So we are focusing on safety on public transport. Your question was specifically about public transport, and making it so that we do have more lighting, more CCTV, more staffing, more gate lines, things that improve the environment so that those that are causing problems or who are harassing people are dealt with. You know, working directly on those frontline services to make sure that if they need to be, the police are involved. So all of that. But some changes that I would like to see, personally, I'd like to see social media more regulated. You know, I think the experience particularly of, you know, I keep mentioning young people online, but it isn't just young people, it's lots of different people online, is extraordinary. It's not something that any of us experienced growing up, and what they're dealing with now, you know, there's no such thing, it's not the playground bully and then you go home of an evening and forget about it. It's there all the time, on their phone, on their computer, you know, present in their lives, causing them damage and pain and hurt. So I would like to see that happen, and I'm glad government are doing something, but I'd like them to do more, and I'd like them to do it quicker. And then I think we just have to keep raising this as an issue. I think, you know, we shouldn't be accepting it. Having those messages very clear in schools and community settings that actually, it's perfectly possible for people with different views to come together and have a healthy discussion and not all agree all the time, and that be fine. And so, I think continuing to talk about this as a topic, raise it as an issue, highlight the fact that people are, often needlessly being abused for doing their jobs, whether they are a journalist, whether they are a social worker, far too often our care workers, our NHS staff. We have to keep calling it out and calling people in and saying, why are you doing this? You wouldn't talk to your friend or your family member like that. Why would you talk to this person like that? So I think it's a really important thing, and I think there's some things we can do to improve our environment and, take direct action. But I think some of it is a little bit of people power as well.
Okay. Thank you. And our final question. He's been waiting very patiently.
What was the council's policy on antisocial behaviour?
So I can't speak for the council or the police, but I think we know antisocial behaviour is an issue that affects too many people. We heard just before about those horrible off-road bikes that kind of ride around causing havoc, and they're really, really dangerous. We know that we see antisocial behaviour far too often, graffiti, litter, all of those sorts of things. And I think that the policy has to be that it needs to be prevented. So first of all, trying to prevent it. I think some of the things that we want to see more of is good quality youth provision, youth services. There's amazing YMCA in Ashington here that's about helping young people to have somewhere to go and something to do, and to give them that opportunity that not only prevents antisocial behaviour, but more importantly helps them to get a good job and to learn new skills and to make new friends. So I think things like that are really important. Again, making sure that neighbourhood policing is there, and working with the police to highlight where the areas of antisocial behaviour are. And again, making sure that if there's antisocial behaviour, for example, in your street, in the housing, reporting that to the council, because I think too often people, really experience quite acute problems and they don't bring it up because either they're worried about doing it or they don't think anyone will take any notice. And actually people do take notice, and we can tackle it. So I think we know it's a problem. It's not something that we control. We can't tell those services to do anything at the moment, but continuing to raise it and report it and to tackle it, I think is really crucial for places like Ashington, because we've seen at times it get really out of control, and we've also seen really big improvements, but the key is to keep making the improvements all the time.
Thank you for your question. Well, unfortunately, everybody, we've come to the end of our time. In fact, we've gone over a little bit
Story of my life.
on those things. But we've gone on a bit of a journey here in terms of topics. We've trains and the metros and the buses and the antisocial behaviour and digital inclusion and just inclusion in general and various other bits. But have you got any final thoughts that you'd like to leave everybody with today, Kim?
Well, just a huge thank you for your time. I mean, you've given up so much of your time in the middle of a Friday and a beautiful day as well, where you could be outside enjoying the sunshine to have this conversation, and I really, really appreciate it, and it does make a difference. Kind of dotted around the room are various members of our team, the Warm Homes team, who are here to listen and to take on board everything you've said so that we can make the changes that we want to see, and we want to keep working with you. So, we now are very much connected to Age UK North Tyneside and Northumberland, and if you do have feedback, if you go away and you think of something after and you think, I wish I'd said that, or I've just had this idea, feed it in, let them know, and we're always all ears. The whole point of this is it's about you. Yep. It's about making sure that the North East is a place that, because I think it's the best place in the world. We've got the best people, we've got the best beaches, we've got the best towns, we've got the best football clubs. Always careful. I think I might be safe up here. But the fact of the matter is, we can always do more to make it even better. And to do that, it has to be a joint effort. And that's all about hearing what you've got to say. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.